I'm Robert Ayers, the founder of Liberty Pest Services, a veteran and just a regular guy who decided to bet on himself. So let's get into this episode. Episode one is my why. Before the trucks, the logos, the customers, the plans, there was moments where the life that I living was no longer a match for the life that I wanted to be present for. I'm a single dad, not that polished version people like to imagine, but the real one. Custody schedules, school drop-offs, sick days, the constant decision of about where I was needed more. Every job that I worked expected my time to come first. My son needed me to come first. I learned fast that asking permission to be present in my own child's life was never going to work for me. Working for someone else eventually stopped making sense. I was trading my time, my body, my experience, and the reliability for a paycheck I hit the ceiling and the schedule that I couldn't control. No matter how hard I worked, I was building someone else's future while borrowing time from my own. This realization sat heavy, and once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. Walking away from a steady income was terrifying. There was no sugarcoating that. A guaranteed paycheck feels safe, even when it quietly was draining me. Starting Liberty meant choosing uncertainty on purpose, no benefits, no backup plans, no one to blame if it didn't work out, just me, my phone, my tools, and the responsibilities to make this work because I knew my son was watching. The name Liberty Pest Services wasn't random either. It was about freedom of time, freedom of choice, freedom of building something that aligns with my values instead of fighting against them. It meant not being owned by the clock, a route sheet, or someone else's priorities. It meant earning a living without giving up my presence. There was no safety net, no piles of savings, no investors, just a belief, definitely stubbornness, and the willingness to move forward even when fear was loud. Betting on myself wasn't about confidence, it was about the necessity. I either built something that fit my life or stay stuck explaining why I couldn't show up the way I wanted to. I didn't start this to get rich. I just started this to be present. Well, let's get started on how did I get into this industry? So I got out of the military in December 2003, and I surprised my family because they just thought I was home for the winter break because this is the first time that I seen them in the past year. I just came back from Iraq a few months earlier in August of 2003, and honestly, I had really no plans on what was going to come next. My contract with the Army was up, and I was just excited to be home. One of the biggest reasons I didn't renew my contract was for my dad. He was battling cancer for years and it was only getting worse. And I wanted to spend time with him to kind of reconnect and rebuild that relationship with him. So that Christmas, I wrapped up my discharge paper and I put it underneath the tree and it made sure it was going to be the last gift that my parents opened. It was a very happy, proud moment. It was emotional. But deep down, I felt there was something off inside of me. So as the days went on, boredom crept in. I just went from having a mission every day to nothing, no structure, no purpose. I knew I had to do something. So I did what most people did back in the day. They opened up the yellow pages and I saw this full page ad for this pest control company, and we'll call them the Big T. And I didn't know nothing about pest control, nothing about the industry, nothing about corporate America. Within 2 months out of getting out of the Army, I got hired by this company. And next thing you know, I'm killing bugs. At this time, with the dark humor that I had, looked around that I just came back from Iraq from being a type of exterminator over there to coming home to being a real exterminator. Different pests, different battlefield, same mission. So what I didn't know back then was I was going to enjoy it so much. I didn't know that this would stick. I definitely didn't know that this is how my future was going to be. But in the moment, in that yellow page decision, it changed everything for me. Okay, so now over the next 20 years working for the Big T, there's plenty of highs and plenty of lows. Definitely a lot of lows. But at the end of the day, I was learning, and more importantly, I was finding my purpose. I started from the bottom as just a termite bait station checker. Months after months, house after house, checking stations and looking for the termite activity. During this time, I was studying to try to pass the state board test to become a field representative. That test for me was hard. I hated to read, I hated to study, and I always been, and I always will be. I'm a hands-on learner. So I failed it a couple of times, but eventually I passed and I was able to earn my state license for branch 2 and 3. And with that, I was able to move from checking bait stations to actually doing termite treatments. After doing that for about 6 years as a termite treater, I started dabbling in sales, real estate inspections, and renewal inspections. And then I finally felt like what I felt was the big break. I was offered a pest control route. And if you're in this industry, and as you know, as a technician, where the money's at, unless you're in sales. So for the next 10 years, things started looking promising. I was running a route, cashing paychecks, dealing with consistent changes of leadership and corporate directions. It was definitely a love-hate relationship, that started. Now, I didn't like where the company was headed, and I caught myself thinking, if only I became management, I can fix this. I can make things better for myself and the other technicians at this branch. But I stayed where I was, day in and day out, because at this point, I was trapped by the paycheck. I had a nice car, I was able to buy a house and everything else. But I wanted change, but also I wanted that six-figure income that I was making. So around 2015, 2016, I started thinking seriously about opening up my own pest control company. And I even got my operator's license at the time, but I was scared. And then I met my good friend, Danny. Danny saw something in me that I refused to see for myself. He seen my passion, my drive, my potential. He didn't give up. He did not let go at all. He gave me that tough love. He called me out on my excuses. He called me out on my fears. I can hear him still saying it today over and over again. Scared money don't make money. You got to take the leap. You got this. But I didn't listen. I held on to my safety net. I held on to that paycheck. Years went by and then COVID hit. And I remember thinking, good thing I didn't listen to him. Man, the whole world got shut down. Businesses were folding. But then I was looking, pest control? Calls kept on coming. This industry felt bulletproof. The more people that were stuck at home, the more problems they were noticing at their house. During this time, a lot of things have changed. I had a son. I became a service manager to create a better schedule and a work life balance. I went through a failed relationship, and the world opened back up. And I knew this was time. I knew I was going to start my own company. But the big question was, what am I going to call this? How am I going to be able to afford leaving a paycheck? How am I going to adjust to the new lifestyle? What am I going to do to be present for my son? The pressure weighed heavy. But then mid 2024, it finally clicked. I found my purpose. I said, fuck it. Danny was right this whole time. His words kept echoing in my head. No time is the right time. Scared money don't make money. So after about 20 years, I put in my 2 week notice and I never looked back. All right. That's it for today. If this episode helped you or made you think a little differently about work, life, or betting on yourself, then it did its job. I'm not here to sell you a dream. I'm just here to share the road that I've been on, the wins, the mistakes, and everything in between. If you're building something of your own, especially in the service industry, just know this: you're not behind, you're learning. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and follow. Leave a comment below, and it helps way more than you think, and it helps reach the next person that needs to hear this. On the next episode, you're going to hear a little bit more in depth about what happened after I finally left Terminex. So stick around. This is Robert with Liberty Pest Services. Until next time, keep showing up, keep doing the work, protect your time, your family, and your freedom. We'll talk soon. And just remember, freedom starts with liberty.